And
Yes.
what are your overall, and I'm sure there are lots of different things, but if you could sort of distill it down, what are your overall training principles when it comes to training, right? And
Okay.
there's yourself, and then also the clientele that you service.
Yeah, and that's where there are similarities, and then there's differences. My training philosophy in earlier times was basically very similar to what is, like a CrossFit type of. It was, since I was training for the military, I didn't really care about how muscular I got, how defined I got. Um, there was a point when I was just out of high school, I wanted to weigh 200 pounds. That was important. I just had to get up to 200, which I did. It was kind of a fluffy 200, but yeah, after I got there, I kind of stopped caring about that. And my thing was just being able to, on any given day and at any given time, being able to basically produce or to respond with, I used to call it respond with violence. Now, and it didn't mean like just, but like if somebody attacked you or jumped you, or you just had to be ready. No warm-ups, no, oh, here, let me get my foam roller out before we do that. No, you just had to go. And you had to be able to go without sleep, and you had to go hungry, and just everything the military would do to you. And I did that for probably the first 40 something years of my life. It was, every day was a beat down. And on the days you felt beat down, that was a good day to practice training beat down, because, life's going to do that to you. And you can't just say, hey, I'm beat down. I can't. So I used to just grind. And, in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, where I was obviously younger, I recall just, when I look back on it, I had a lot of orthopedic pain. Like my lower back was always sore. I had a hyperlordose. I was just, and anterior pelvic tilt, that big bubble, Venice in the 90s, everyone was walking around with the MC Hammer pants and their ass sticking, or their butt sticking backwards and chest out, right? The big oversized sweatshirt. So that was training from age, say, 15 up until age 40. And then I got cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer at age 42, so about 10 years ago. It was colon cancer. It was serious. I was working, I was holding a kicking shield for one of my clients, and he's throwing front kicks, and they weren't killers, but every one of these kicks was just kind of sore. And then I started feeling really kind of tired. My wife took me to the ER, and it turns out I was internally bleeding from, basically, there was a cancerous ulcer in my colon that had ruptured. So I was then I had to go in for surgery, and they cut it out. And so after that, nothing was the same. I had chemotherapy for about a year. And after that, I looked the same. I kind of looked the same from before. I even during cancer, during chemo, I held about 208 pounds. I had all my muscle was still around, but I was weak. I've learned now, and I'm sure you know this, Chris, that you can see a guy that looks like the Hulk, but if that guy has something going on, he can be weaker than his grandmother and still hold what appears to be a healthy, formidable structure to him. But coming out of my chemo, and when I started, every time I would try to train when I'm on chemo, you want to throw up, because I had a pump attached to me when I wasn't in the hospital. This pump during the day was always shooting chemo into me. I was just saturated for months with this stuff. So after that, I learned that everything I did was difficult. It would take much longer to recover from it. And the wear and tear on my joints seemed to be disproportionate to what I was doing. I mean, I was literally my joint surfaces were degrading. And to this day, they're damaged from that period of time where I thought I was still the same, but I wasn't. So I think I have some orthopedic issues, especially in the knees and the feet, that came from some neuropathy that I got from the chemo. But now my personal training, my training for myself, and most of my clients are about my age, give or take 5 years or 10 years. So we're all kind of 40 to 60-ish. I've learned that this is a more appropriate thing for people our age, and none of us are elite athletes, but daily, consistent, sub-maximal workouts that are enjoyable have worked very well for me and for my clients. And this was kind of also pieced together during the lockdown that we had. Because I was telling people I started the channel as a challenge for my daughter. We were both locked up here, and we thought, okay, let's do something fun. But also one of my clients, I was training people online, and he and some others, they were doing well in the sessions, but no one was training outside on their own, even though I'd give them their workout and whatever. And he said that what would be helpful to him would be for me to post just somewhere, either to him directly or online, literally what my workout was when I was at home, because he said it would be kind of fun to see what I do. And he also was calling me out. He said, man, I want to make sure you're not just talking smack and having me and you're at home. And literally he busted me, because I guarantee you the worst of my clients was still working out more than I was during that time. Okay. Like the laziest, most whatever, they're drinking, they're still were getting more, because I was just coincidentally before the lockdown, I was kind of in a state of depression for at least a couple of years, because my health, my joints, everything was just, I was weaker than, I'm training harder or trying to train, and everything was sore, chronic fatigue. My guts were a mess, very foggy, brain fog, tired, I was a mess. And the lockdown just allowed me to kind of just get my bearings back. I had a lot of time to think. I started with 10 minutes. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. 10 minutes. I'll put it on YouTube. And then in return, you give me 10 minutes, and you don't have to put it on YouTube. I was telling the client that. And so I did that. And he then started kind of following. He said, every time you put one of those up, I promise you. And he did. But I started getting comments from just people on YouTube that happened to find the videos. Because I started doing this for about a week or two, and then they started finding them. And some of the comments they left were really very nice and encouraging. And they kind of said, hey man, I wouldn't mind if I'm getting something out of this. You want to? So I said, okay, let's do this for a month. And then a month turned into 90 days. And then here we are, just over a year. And I put something on TikTok yesterday that I thought it would be appropriate for me to take a few days off. I just wanted to see if I could do this for a year. I did it for, I think, a year and a few days. But at the same time, I didn't want that to be the message. I'm not necessarily advocating, or I do not recommend working out every single day for a year. That is not something that I please, if your listeners and viewers get anything from, it's a good thing to do, but not for 365 days in a row. Yeah, that's another reason, because I was getting to the point where, as long as there would be certain areas that be sore, a little bit under recovered, but as long as I could work around those areas and those workouts were meaningful and strong, and I wasn't just going through the motions to throw up a video, then I would continue. But I've literally hit the point where my right knee is not letting me get away with things. My left ankle and Achilles is telling me enough. My left wrist is saying no mas. So at this point, if I were to keep putting videos up there, I'd be kind of lying to all of you guys, because I'd just be like posing. And unless I can bring real energy to the videos, that's another, I have to be honest, by the time you see clubs and other things starting to come out, that means my heavy compounds, my kettlebell and my barbell things, I'm starting to flag. I'm starting to I'm drop back. But that's not a dig against the clubs. The clubs are wonderful for rehabbing and prehabbing while you're letting other areas. Like I could go out every day and do clubs. Yeah. I'm sure these areas would still heal, but I thought a better message to give would be, I'm going to stop this. Yeah, anybody, if they try to, find something else to do, but I didn't want that to be the point. So I thought, hey, I'm going to cap it, and I'm going to answer everybody's questions for the next few days, sort of like what we're doing here. So